All right, guys, so now my book cover has been sitting under weight overnight. It's nice and dry. Remember, you have to do this times 2 because you have 2 book covers. The next thing I'm going to do before I start this next process is I'm going to give my book cover just a little bit of haircut. So I just kind of go around and look for places where the felt is hanging off. Usually what I do too, I don't know if you can see this very well, but I'm kind of beveling the felt a little bit, which helps to keep from fraying. Although felt doesn't really have much of a tendency to fray. But just a little haircut, not crazy noticeable, just enough to make it just a little bit more refined on the cover. Okay, so that's done and I'm gonna put it aside. Now what you should do is also tear down your paper. So right now you're working with dummies, but I just grabbed some handmade paper to work with. But you should tear down your paper or razor it down to the size of your cover. Usually what I do is I'll make it, like an 1/8 of an inch smaller on the bottom edge and the fore edge, so it's just slightly smaller. Now you don't necessarily have to do that, but remember with your handmade paper, you've got a really large raggedy decal, okay? Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna need to do is make a binding template. So I'm gonna take this. It's just a piece of cardstock. Okay, so because this is a small book, I'm just gonna make 2 sewing stations. Now, you can put these anywhere you want on your book. You can make 3 sewing stations, 4 sewing stations, 5 sewing stations. It really just depends on what you want. Remember, Coptic binding is very beautiful. It's like this beautiful series of knots, okay? The larger the spine, the more sewing stations that you're gonna need, okay? You can put these anywhere you want to. They don't have to be equidistant. So I'm gonna go 1 inch from the head and 1 inch from the tail. And I'm gonna mark it this way. Okay? Usually I would put 1, 2, just in case my measurements are slightly off. Now, your pages are tucked inside of each other in groups of 2, right? So this is called a section. When you take more than 1 folio and you put it together, you make a section, right? Some of you who have really thick paper, you might not want to do this. You might want to just do individual folios. I like to do things in section because it helps strengthen it, and handmade paper is just a little bit softer. Even though we have some sizing in it, it's still just a little softer. The next thing that you're gonna need is your corrugated cardboard, okay? Because we're gonna start putting holes in our books. So I'm gonna open my book. And put my hole template against the spine. And then of course our next step is to put holes at the sewing station. So holding this here, there's 1, and there's 2. So now I have 2 holes right? What I'm really cautious to do is to always make sure to stack the paper in the same order. So if all the decal is at the bottom and there's no decal at the top, you make sure that all the holes are punched exactly the same way with the decals in the same direction. So you're going to go through this for all of the sections in your book. And this should get you to where you need to be by the end of class on Thursday. And then on Tuesday, I'm sorry. And then on Thursday, we will put this all together.